Rapid Cargo sponsors the Kubi Springer Show. I'm honoured to sit down with you because you're a legend sports promoter and sports agent. So I want to start off by asking you, for the people at home, who have you represented?
Let's start at the beginning and see if the names ring any bells. Laurie Cunningham, and in the first instance, Nigel Benn became Britain's first black middleweight champion. Paul Ince, who became England's first black football captain. Ellery Hanley, who was Britain's first black rugby league captain. I brought Lennox Lewis to this country to fight. I think they are probably of an era, the names. In terms of taking on sporting bodies, the British Boxing Board of Control, we defeated their contract in the courts. The MCC, we defeated their contract. The Football League, the Rugby Football League. And this is what it's been a constant. You've got to break things to repair them to suit you or your objective.
So suffice to say, you are a legend in the world of sports. Do you own that title? No,
because it hasn't even begun. You know, I was just joking before. You know, now I work with a very close friend of mine in a legal practice, Mel Goldberg, who is the chairman of the British Association of Sport and Law. For a period, about 3 years, I represented as a commercial agent the Manchester United side when it began to evolve and change. Of course, Paul Ince was taken there as a little lad. Not only did he become England's first black captain, he became a first black Premiership manager. We still have a very, very close relationship to this day. I spend quite a lot of time mentoring to a number of players, footballers, fighters, boxers, and I'm particularly proud that I spend, together with Ian Wright, a lot of time talking and mentoring to Jermaine Defoe. And it's important because there is a baton carrier.
Yes.
That guy is going to go forward, go ahead, and leave a mark. Intrinsically, tremendous person, and a great brand to be in and around and want to see evolve.
Absolutely. Over the years, I mean, you mentioned on the TV show that you have been in this game since you were a young lad.
Yeah.
How has the industry changed? How has the business of sports changed?
Well, when I was, when I left school, I went to West Ham, and I got £7, 16 shillings a week.
16 shillings?
Yeah, which, unless I'm going mad, is £7.60 pence. £7.60 pence. Okay. It's actually £7.70 pence, which was a joke. You know, even then it was a joke. A house, the first time I bought a house, I think it was £2,200.
Wow.
First time I bought a Range Rover, it was £1,800, including purchase tax, which they don't have anymore. But this will give you some idea. So when you ask how sports changed, Bobby Moore, who was the captain, England's famous football captain, the only captain ever from this country to have lifted a World Cup, Bobby Moore was at West Ham. It's probably on about 130 quid a week.
Wow.
We have a player who will be signed in this window, who 3 years ago was on about, I don't know, £2,000 a week. Signing a deal now at £62,000 a week. He wouldn't get a murmur if I told you what his name was. The game has changed. Sports changed. You know, here we are in the most rapidly advancing technologically era man has ever known. You know, we've seen through the ages, you know, Bronze Age, Stone Age, Iron Age, the Middle Ages, Reformation of the Church, the Industrial Revolution. We're now in the information age. And he who can communicate quickest is king. He who can communicate, or she, who can communicate most lastingly is emperor or empress. And as far as I know, emperors and empresses ruled. And that's what it is. So that's where we are today. It's very, very easy today to move up through the echelons, just as easy to come down.
I was going to say, your path has had the highs, it's had the low moments, it's had the financial explosions, and I'm assuming by pure virtue of being a man in business, you've also had those financial moments where it hasn't been as great. How have you sustained yourself in the business of sports during all of those movements and all of those changes across the years?
Because, you know, and thank God, I've always been innovative. I've always been creative. And I'll take the time out to tell you, as a kid, you should know my mother was a Jewess. Get this. My dad came from Guinea-Bissau, West Africa. How these two ever got together, the Lord alone knows. But they did, and they settled down, and my mum was really passionate. She was ostracised by a Jewish community. My mum was mixed race. Her dad, coincidentally, was the son of a slave born in Brazil. And his father originally came from Guinea-Bissau, and I know they had the same names.
Wow.
It's a whole history. It was destined. In any event, putting that to one side, I think I always knew what was right. I always knew what was wrong. And as I said earlier on, anything good in my life, thank God, anything bad is 100% on my shoulders. Because nobody ever forced me to go anywhere. But looking at what I was as a kid and looking at what I faced, you know, through life as an adult, a very young dad, a very young husband, very ambitious, hugely aspirational. It always meant to me that I had to learn and learn and learn and learn. Voracious reader, huge reader. I don't suffer fools gladly, but I have a great sense of humour. So it was always a platform. I was never going to fall. It was never a glass floor.
Sure.
I was never going to fall through it. I was never going to suffer just being buried alive.
Sure. Because
it was my fault. Whatever went wrong, it was my fault.
I want to talk about whatever went wrong. Your path led you to being imprisoned.
Yes.
And I know that whilst you were in there, you studied, you gained 2 degrees. I want to go back to the lessons that you learnt and the lessons that you would pass on to any young person who is watching today about the path that you chose and how for them to avoid it.
Okay. I think you've always got to be a realist. You always have to be a realist. You cannot blame circumstance. However you feel, you cannot blame circumstance because circumstances brought you into this world. And for you to do something wrong, you must have been doing something right in the first place. So you've come off the path.
Sure.
And, you know, people have asked me a time, you know, okay, so you made a mistake. You make a mistake once. If you do the same thing twice and it gets the same result, it's deliberate. You know, you've planned your downfall and your demise. I faced a set of circumstances, I think. I found a little loophole in a banking system. And like most pinpricks, you put a pinprick in a piece of paper and put it up to your eye, you can see everything on the other side. That's where I was.
Sure.
You know, looking and thinking I was really, really smart, really clever. And I think, to be quite, it was obviously clever. It wasn't very smart, with hindsight. And of course, it was hugely lucrative. But the one saving grace I always had, when I was a kid, I went to the church army, the Salvation Army. I was actually taught by the grandson of the founder of the Salvation Army, William Booth, Captain Booth in Clapton Congress Hall in Hackney. St John at Hackney Church, St Scholasticus Roman Catholic Church. I sung as a choir boy in any choir that would have me sing because they paid you at the weddings. You know, I mean, this is the reality of it. But impregnated in my subconscious is this recall, you know, of the service on the Sunday morning, of the hymns.
Did that save you when you were inside?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
Thank you so much for coming on.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
I adore you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Rapid Cargo sponsors the Kubi Springer Show.